Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. My guest today is Sarah Dawn Moore. She is a professional relationship coach. We're talking about dating. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts. We're going to talk about male and female interaction, how it's been shaped culturally, how it's been really impacted from a negative and from a positive standpoint, and really what you guys can do if you are somebody who is in a relationship that's struggling. Maybe you're trying to get a date. Maybe you're somebody who's just dealing with the troubles of dating today. But enjoy the episode. It's a lot of fun. Enjoy. So let's start there, because I like to always give the mic over to the guests, let them kind of tell me their backstory. You're a relationship coach professionally now.
Yep.
What got you even interested in doing something like that?
Oh, I mean, I've gone out on a lot of dates that were disastrous, and I was like, guys, we need some help. But then also it goes way back further than that. Okay, so I started out on TikTok. I had this one clip that went viral. I mean, it got millions and millions of views. And this was 2 years ago. I worked in a corporate job for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Had no idea what TikTok was. I just was having fun looking at this app. And I thought, oh, okay, I kind of like this. Like, this is fun. I'm going to post something and see what happens. So the post was talking about how guys tend to go into like their cave time, that like sometimes they need cave time and they need to separate themselves from anything that produces estrogen, including their girlfriends. So you can imagine how the girls did not like that. Yeah. So I like closed down the app, and I was, I do like the red thing, and I have the red screen, and I'm kind of like a little bit of an actress. And I wake up, I caricature. So then I wake up and I see just guys like tagging, boom, 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 the girls like do all these tags, and girls were like, this is bullshit. Like, he doesn't need time away from me. This is just an excuse. Like, this girl is enabling these guys. And I thought, wow, okay. Like, this
touchy
is
subject,
really interesting. Yeah. Like,
you didn't think it'd be quite as touchy as it got?
No way. I was just, it was just comedy. I was like half comedy. It was just talking about the differences between male and female dynamics. Okay, so that happened. And I thought, okay, this is really interesting. Personally, what happened for me was I was engaged. I lost my dad really, really young.
Yeah.
So it made things difficult for me because I had all these boys around me, right? And like I have brothers, but you have different relationships though with your brothers. Like it's not
than
romantic.
You do with your dad.
It's not a romantic thing, right?
Yeah.
So fast forward, 10 years, 15 years of my own dating life, it was really, I struggled because I realized at some point that I didn't have that father figure that was kind of showing me how to treat a man, like how to show up in a relationship. I fell into kind of the feminist trap where I was working, I was in a big, large corporation. I was hearing all of these things about men. I was having terrible relationships. I had an engagement that like ended 6 days.
Like what?
Before.
Give me an example. What's something you would hear at the corporate level about men? What's a feminist thing they would say?
Oh my gosh, well, I mean, all men just want to sleep with you. Like, you have to be very competitive with men. Like, men are not cooperative. Men are controlling. Men don't really care about women. It was like a very competitive relationship. Like, you had to be the subordinate, and they were always like the boss. So you kind of
a toxic perspective.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say that the narrative about men a lot of times can be pretty toxic, that we're taught to kind of fear them versus perceive their behavior as just being protective or being a certain way because they're trying to show their leadership. And if you concede to that, then you are being controlled. Like you're relinquishing your power as a woman. So I had to go through this whole transformation within my life to kind of understand, okay, how am I showing up in relationships? How am I showing up with men that might be, more competitive or more, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt, or, we're just not vibing well in relationships. Like I said, I have a was engaged.
Mhm.
My engagement ended like 6 days before. It was very traumatic. It
Whoa.
was like a big,
Wow.
it was a big,
Yeah.
huge thing in my life that
6 days before the ceremony.
mhm.
Whoa.
So you either have like you have something like that happens, and you can either go two ways, right?
Mhm.
What a lot of people will do is they will become very angry and become very resentful and basically just say F this, like I'm out. Like
Never getting married.
I'm never getting married.
Love is
like,
fake.
Yeah. Like I just
Go on, Brandon.
okay. Did I
see
touch a
this.
nerve?
I relate to this. Never my marriage, but it's the same perspective that can be created when you see other people's marriages fall apart. If it's someone close enough to you and you watch it deteriorate, you're like, I don't want any part of that. Like,
Yeah.
my life may be filled with a little bit of whatever, loneliness or all this stuff, but to me it feels like it's a lot easier than what that person is going through.
Yeah.
So I can relate to that sentiment.
Yeah.
But then I'm sure sentiment number 2 is something different.
Yeah, I mean, no risk, no reward, right? You
Right.
can stay in your little house and do your thing, but you're never going to feel, I think, fully evolved as a human being. I think love and being in a relationship really brings out a certain level of growth. I mean, I know you're married, so you've probably experienced challenges, right? And you've had to grow within that relationship. And I think there's nothing more beautiful than finding someone that challenges you in a healthy way, that you can really look back at the relationship and go, wow, like we have really been through a lot. And there's a family, there's an unconditional love that you get from a partnership that you don't get from just friendship. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what your
Totally.
I don't know what your marriage is like, and we can talk about that, but it's hard. I mean, relationships are hard. Let's just baseline, like men and women are in relationships. I think sometimes we struggle to understand like what we truly need at a base level.
And I think it takes both people working on it together. Like you can't have just one person that checks out and the other person tries to put all their time and effort into it, and there's not that meeting in the middle. So yeah.
Yeah. Because
And-
it will feel one-sided, and then one person will typically probably get resentful because they are working so hard and the other person is just laying back, or it creates some unspoken resentment, and that will lead to eventual downfall of the relationship, because resentment is one of, I don't know if you know, are familiar with the Gottmans. They have studied couples. They're out of Seattle. They've been married for 40 or 50 years, and they basically have a love lab where they bring people in.
How do you spell their name?
The Gottman, the Gottmans. Yeah, there they are. They're so cute. It's such a cute.
There are a couple.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, they're so cute. But what
Oh,
they
see, they got some years on them. They've done this for a while.
yeah, but
That's
what,
great.
what they've done is they have basically an incubator for couples called the Love Lab. They bring couples into Seattle in this basically an apartment where they study what keeps relationships together and what breaks couples apart. And one of them, they call it the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and the four horsemen of divorce. Basically, one of them is resentment. The other one is contempt. The other one is like stonewalling and just in your inability to communicate with one another, your inability to have conversation because you were just checked out of the relationship.
Uh-huh.
I can't think of the other one right now. It's blanking on me.
You've got 3 right now. You just said 3.
Yeah,
There's one
just
more.
look up the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and or I think you'll see it in the, yeah, just Google it and then they'll bring up the other one. But the point of me saying this was when I was chatting with you, as far as that resentment goes, they study these couples and they're able to tell within a 95% accuracy level by the communication, by what is happening within the relationship, if the couple's going to make it or not.
Mhm.
They will follow up with a couple.
By make it, you mean stay married.
Here it
until
is.
they die.
Criticism. That was the other one. Yeah. So criticism, contempt, defensiveness,
and
and stonewalling.
stonewalling.
The criticism is like, you never do this. You aren't You
Mm-hmm.
aren't fulfilling me. All these things. And those are the 4 things. They will follow up with a couple 1, 2, 3 years from now. And they've been able to tell basically like they're not going to make it. So this stuff fascinates me because
Contempt is made to feel. Go back up.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. the target of contempt is made to feel despised and worthless. So contempt, I mean, can you open that up for me? What would be the definition of contempt in this setting?
Disrespect, mock them with sarcasm. So a lot of women will feel contempt for men for not meeting like their silent needs. So what I see happen is that women will not be able to express their needs in an appropriate way because they have their own abandonment wounds. So they fear if they talk about their needs that their person is not going to be able to meet them where they're at. So they silently like grow this silent amount of contempt within themselves. And men, a big thing for you guys is respect. So what you'll start to see is a woman will start, disrespecting you out in public. Like if you're telling a story or something and she has contempt for you, she'll say, oh God, don't listen to, like, please don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Little interjected remarks.
Yes.
Undermining like your employment or what you do for a living, stuff like that.
Yeah. So when she doesn't, or like she maybe not respect your drive. She feels as though,
you love your job more than her.
Yeah, or she doesn't respect what you're doing. Let's say you're a garbage man and she wants you to be more and you're happy with that, but she just is constantly wanting more from you and wanting you to up-level yourself. At some point, she might grow contempt because she thinks that you're lazy, and the guy goes, well, I mean, I'm happy with what I'm doing. Like, and then you'll start to see the disrespect take place, and that will start to erode just the trust. I mean, men, is such a big thing for them is respect. I think you would need to have respect before love almost. I think you give, I agree. Yes. You give love.
There's a book I just read about this. Well, I started to read with my wife. We haven't finished it, but it's about love and respect and how much women need love and how much men need respect. And
is it called Love and Respect?
Probably.
It's yeah, it's a pastor. It's a very famous pastor that wrote it.
Yeah. And by vice versa, if you were to then take the topic of contempt, how then would men in a relationship show contempt for their wives? How does that occur?
I would think that have there times when a woman has used her sexuality or dressed in a certain way or flirted with other men other than you? I don't know if you've ever been with women like that, but
yes.
I think that also I think that when it's almost like what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Like when a woman starts to disrespect you, then I believe that you would most likely have contempt for that. I think if you can think of anything that a woman does to disrespect a man, such as pushing boundaries, keeping friends with an ex, texting inappropriately to someone else, anything that really threatens his trust and his safety, he will start to build a silent level of contempt, because I think it goes way back, right? From an evolutionary standpoint, men value loyalty because, of course, if you are unloyal, you could potentially have a baby with someone else, right? Or just cuckolding, and then you are raising another child that isn't yours. Like that is a man's like worst fear. So there is contempt that builds for women who are also manipulative, right? There's a lot of women who will use their emotions to manipulate a man and say like, oh, all these feelings, and they'll use their feelings to not communicate effectively, and a man will get exhausted by a woman who's almost like overly emotional. You know we're crazy. Y'all know we're crazy. I mean, we know we're crazy too. But it's like a certain level of craziness that I think that men, it's like a 60% craziness.
Of course, you've seen the Hot Crazy Matrix, yes? The video of the Hot Crazy Matrix?
100%.
Best video ever made.
You know what, though? Y'all enter at your own risk, because you like the hot women, but then you complain they're crazy. And I'm like, 100%. Don't come to me for coaching until you fix that first.
You mentioned a phrase that I'd never heard before, but it's silent needs. How important is it for couples to talk about these things before they get into a lifelong monogamous relationship? And how early on do you need to have those conversations?
Early and often. I mean, if you're going to scare someone away by a need, you better scare them away within the first 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, dating is a process. You know, you're not gonna show up and be like, "Whoa," on
Yeah,
the first date. Like, you know,
But honestly,
like, I need you. I need this. You know,
I would prefer it if they did. And I think I'm sure there's a certain demographic of guys that would agree with me on this. I would prefer it if you would show up for a first date and kind of lay it out for me. If there is something, especially something traumatic or something really crazy that you're dealing with, I would rather you told me.
yeah,
Just so that I know. If I've agreed to come on a date with you, there's already an interest there. But if it's going to grow and I'm going to give you what, at least right now, is my most valuable commodity, which is my time, I don't want to know in 6 months
yeah,
that you are, considering creating an OnlyFans. I want to know that you have that around your radar right now.
Yeah.
Like so that I can make a decision on the first date.
yeah.
I think people who don't lay that out is a form of manipulation in and of itself.
That is.
Especially if you don't lay out something that is traumatic or serious and then you get married. And then it comes
mental
out.
health, like
Mental health
issues.
Yes, people who have and look, you know, if you have mental health issues, whether you've been diagnosed or not. I mean, if you have something going on and you marry someone, well, now they're trapped. And
Yeah.
men, women, it happens in both directions.
Yeah.
Do you see
yeah,
that?
Yeah. So I have kind of a process, right, for dating and for dating based off of values. A lot of people go into dating and go into finding a relationship. They don't have a framework. They don't have anything where they have, kind of a list. And I'm not talking about a checklist. I'm talking about, okay, do we value the same things, such as a lot of times like introverts will get with extroverts. Okay, so at some point we have to decide how important it is for you and your social interaction, because if I'm going to want to stay home and eat ice cream all the time and just Netflix and chill by myself, and then you're going to get disappointed that your partner's not coming out with you and having that type of social interaction, eventually the things that you love about people in the beginning, right, typically becomes the things that you hate or that you resent. So you have to be really clear. Like, I'm not saying, okay, you have to go out with me this much and this much, but it's like, what is your social aptitude? Like, where do you want to end up in life? Are you going to be upset if I don't go to the sports games with you? Do you want kids? Do you not want kids? How do you see yourself raising your children? Do you believe in spanking? Do you not believe in spanking? There's these conversations. I think that people stay away from these deep conversations of what they value.
Because they're afraid of what they're going to hear.
They're afraid.
That this might not work out, this person, which is so self-destructive just by itself. You'd rather not know. You'd rather be like, oh, I don't want to know. Because then it's like, well, you want to know now. You don't want to know later. That's worse.
Yeah.
They don't want to waste that half an hour date. They'd rather waste the rest of their lives figuring it out.
Well, and chemistry is a bitch. Chemistry and dating off of, quick dopamine hits is a bitch. So, you can be so attracted to someone. You can be drawn into whatever their energy is. Great sex does not equal a good relationship. Great chemistry.
Amen.
I mean, so I think that's what people are a lot of people are dating on, especially with the dating apps. I mean, you are getting drawn in by someone's physical features in the very first 2 seconds. Like, your brain, boop, is ignited. So then you start making up these stories about, oh, well, this person could be this or this person could be that. Like, you start fantasizing about a future with them. Women do it too.
Women, I was about to say, women too. I know men are, of course, very physical and they're visual.
Oh, yeah.
Women, I mean, swiping right and just getting a dopamine hit, same as us.
Oh, yeah. I think we don't give enough credit to the fact that women are also very, very visual. I mean, if they weren't, then why wouldn't guys who are 5'7", be getting a whole bunch of dates? Like, I don't know if you've heard any of the studies or the research on that, but women are very shallow, more so than I think that we give them credit for. But I think we're living in a world now where physicality not dating like with intention, and having certain conversations early and often, and then really being able to negotiate your needs, because you're not going to get everything that you want in one person. It's impossible. So if it's really important for you to want me to go to the theater or whatever, and that is just like a non-negotiable for you, that's, if it is, please call me, because that's dumb. But that's not what's going to keep a relationship going. But you need to stop and like have a framework for what is it that you're looking for, and how to create a connection with someone beyond the physical. And I think there would be a lot less heartache. And like, don't sleep with people so soon. Chill.
That's a big one.
Chill.
You just
I'm looking at you too.
Threw that in. That's a big one, because I think it clouds. At least I can only speak from the perspective of a guy, because I am. It clouds your judgment immediately as soon as that happens, and you are willing to ignore some huge red flags if all of a sudden you connect with somebody at that level.
Yeah,
because that's rare too. And here's the tricky part, because I'm going to play the devil's advocate here for both parties. Somebody who, never sleeps together. I mean, we all come from a religious background where you're taught you don't sleep with someone until you're married. And while I don't personally know anybody who followed that to the letter of the law, let's say for the sake of argument there is that the most advisable course of action to take? You've entirely kept yourself abstinent, you're not having sex with this person, then you get married. Do you see that as a potential red flag?
That would scare me a bit, to be honest, because you can't ignore sexual attraction. I mean, you can't ignore how those things work, and if they don't work. And I grew up also, in the church. I was very Catholic, and I saw that really turn into a disaster for some people that I knew, because they didn't have, the sexual chemistry. You can tell when you have chemistry, but I'm not. I mean, look, I'm a woman in her 30s. I'm like, I don't advise that, but I also advise, my thing is, 60 to potentially like 90 days
waiting before you have sex.
Yeah. I know that sounds like, so dramatic.
It's really
guys are
not.
Like, what? Don't make me do that, Sarah. I'm like, well, because I talk about sex on my channel. I have plenty of sex stuff on my YouTube. I'm like, yes, when you're in a relationship or when you're married, like, let's go, have as much sex as you want. But in the beginning, when you're looking for a relationship, I'm telling you that dopamine will really, really mess you up.
Yeah. In this day and age of online dating, how do you advise your clients to use or not use the tools that are available for them?
Specifically dating apps? Is that
dating apps, dating websites, and this can be any age demographic. I mean, I know elder people that are just getting on it for the first time and trying it out, and then people that are younger using Tinder or whatever other app there is.
Well, I think there's two types of people that are on the apps, right? There's the people that just want to F, and they typically aren't paying me for dating advice. They're typically
because they don't want to date.
Yeah, that's okay. That's easy. And if they did, I'd just be like, call me when you're ready for a relationship. So the ones that are using the dating apps, one, you got to take the pressure off. You can't go into it like, I'm looking for my wife. Like, you're going to set yourself, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of disappointment and for a lot of failure. You have to look at this as just an addition to your life. This is a 10% thing. What I see a lot of guys do, right, is they will get on it and it's like, swipe. They have a couple bad dates, or they have a couple situations, and they will get burnt out and they get frustrated and they're like, I'm out. This sucks. Online dating doesn't work.
Right.
I just go, you are putting way too much pressure on yourself. You're putting way too much pressure on these apps. And then secondly, if you're going to try and use it as a tool, then take it seriously. Get some damn pictures that are representative of who you are as a person, of who you are as a man. Men, I love them to death, but you take shit pictures. You just throw up something and hope that you're going to, pull in this high value woman and pull in like the best of the best.
Do you
And
believe high value women are on those apps? That's a question that I think is worth the app. Yeah.
I do. But let me let me just finish this
Yeah,
question. But it's fill out the prompts, fill out the profile. Like if you are marketing yourself to women, and if these high value women, they know what they're looking for. For example, let me just give you an example. I have a client, I worked with him, and he showed me his profile, and it said, no feminists. I drive a truck. I want a woman to stay home and take care of my kids. I mean, it was like the most negative, conservative, like Trump sounding profile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't care about your political affiliations. Like, whatever, like
Right.
you want what you want. But, it was like, I don't just.
It's negative. It
Yeah, there
presents
was
a
like
very-
another thing that he said that I was like, if I saw this, I would literally puke in my mouth. So yeah, you're putting all the things that you don't want, and it sounds terrible. Any woman is going to say this guy is bitter, this guy is controlling, like this guy just sounds like he wants a pawn. So we changed
what's
it.
a doormat? Yeah.
We changed it, and we turned it around, and I said, okay, we want to be positive. We want to say, what is it that you do want? You're looking for more of a traditional relationship. You're looking for, a woman who wants to potentially, that you want to support and that you want to stay home and raise the kids. Like you're willing to offer that support for her. Like a lot of women will see that and go, awesome. Like I'll sign up for that, but it's all in how you word it. And you want to create a profile that shares as much about what you value in life so that a woman can see in a very quick snapshot if she can fit into your life or not. Like take proper pictures with friends. Funny, this is a free tip for you guys watching. I had a client who worked for Match.com, and they would study pictures that women would swipe on the most. I mean, they have all of this data. They can see how long you stay on the picture. They can see who's swiping, who isn't, what guys are getting the most matches. The best picture is a man with a dog.
I know.
believe it.
Absolutely.
So put your dog, or
Oh,
go get a friend's dog.
I went and got coffee this morning. The gal at Dutch Bros exited her little thing, came running around, and
Came to
started
pet the dog.
come to pet the dog.
Yeah.
Your dog, if you have one, will forever be the biggest magnet for the attraction of the female sex ever. Way more than you will ever be. Ever. So
And why do you think that is?
I think a lot of it actually has to do with the fact that they perceive them as immediately friendly, like non-threatening, which is actually very ironic since he, basically a pit bull, but they just immediately, people relate to a dog with a very friendly energy. And if someone has a dog, like if this girl has her own dog,
Yeah.
they want to come. I've had in him as an example, he's very cute. He's just a great
He
looking
is.
dog. I've had
think it-
girls get out at red lights to pet him.
I think it shows that you can care and nurture something.
Bingo.
Oh, okay. I get it.
From a
Nice job, Jake.
deep evolutionary perspective, women want to see that you can not only care for yourself, but that you can, you have to get up early to take a dog out. You have to feed a dog properly. Like, does the dog have proper nutrition? Do you walk the dog? Are you, it shows having a dog is incredibly masculine because the essence of masculinity is responsibility. That you can be responsible for a family, you can be responsible for yourself. So I'm just giving you
That's
a
great.
little bit more of the psychology behind it.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about women's pictures on dating apps.
And
But high value. Let's talk about the high value women.
and their profiles because
Let's talk
Yes.
about filters too.
I mean,
Yes.
for what you for everything you said about the guys' profiles and the errors they make. I mean, look, again, I've only seen this from the perspective of the guy on those apps. If you're not 5'10" or under, go die. If you are not, I screenshotted it once.
Wow.
A girl said that on her profile.
Wow.
They want a, muscular, over 6 foot, make 6 figures person. Which, and I don't remember where this was, but I did see it. there was someone made a meme about this type of those three things that
Yeah.
women typically gravitate toward. That together, the percentage of men doing that, those three things, is like less than 1%.
Yeah, they just handing out audacity for free with women sometimes. Like
little
women
bit.
have some audacity. It's really sad.
They got, and I think it does the biggest disservice to them more than the guy. I mean, if the guy's 5'8", makes 60,000, I mean, he has a really good chance of finding someone else. But if your standards for who you'll even talk to
Yeah.
are those three things,
Yeah.
that's not many people.
And how often do you show up to a date, or have you shown up to a date where the girl doesn't look anything like her pictures?
So for me personally, I mean, I don't go out on a date just off a dating app. I have in my past, like in my 20s, I made a lot of mistakes with courting and dating and all that stuff. Now, if I can't see that you have a social media in some way to see, because that's honestly, and that's a
Is
how
there
they-
consistency
is there
within the pictures?
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have family? Do you have friends? Do you have and social media really is great for this because I can see, I mean, what you're doing for fun, what you're doing. It's a much less direct and invasive platform, social media, as opposed to a dating app. Because I know you're putting your best foot forward on Bumble, but if I go to your Facebook or your Instagram, I can see people took pictures of you and they posted them. I want to see who you are. So I tend to do a little bit more research now before I'll actually go, because like I said, time is a valuable, if I'm going to give you my most valuable commodity, a stranger that I've never met,
Yeah.
I at least want to know that you're real. So if you-
Yeah.
So you're finding them on the dating app, and then you're basically figuring out what their tag is on Instagram or TikTok. Or is that how you-
almost immediately. That's kind of my not my first step, but it's within the first couple questions. I try to say, like, hey, do you have an Instagram? Do you also, and it's, I mean, it might be a little selfish, but it also lets them see like what I'm doing. I want you to see what I'm doing, and I want to gauge your response to it. If you're like, whoa, that's weird, well then, I mean, to answer your question earlier that you asked when coming in the hall, like, what do girls think when they see this? If they think it's weird, then I mean, great,
Yeah.
but that's not, I don't want
It's
to
kind
go
of
any
an
further. with that.
automatic disqualification.
Yeah.
Yeah. They should be more curious and ask, like, is this your business? Because a woman, here's the thing. Here's the reason why I think that my platform blew up as fast as it did, because I've been very lucky, I've been very blessed. I've amassed a lot of followers in a short period of time. And what I found is, okay, this goes back to, again, let's fast forward to my kind of failed engagement. And after that, it was, my dark night of the soul. Everyone kind of hopefully will have one of those in their lifetime, because it's really awakening for you. I said, okay, I need to understand what is it that men are really looking for, right? Like, what is it that men really want? Because a lot of us women are not taught about you men. And if and you can look this up. When I went to type in, what do men need in a relationship? There were like 3 books. There's not a lot on there. And if you type in, what do women want? You will have YouTubes dedicated. You will have, pickup artists, but you'll have
The name of a movie.
Manosphere. It is all sorts of things, so much information, because there is this perception in society that, in order, we have the power because we have the thing between our legs that makes us powerful. So women, we get away with a lot of stuff. And I think that there's a lot of women out there that, it was including myself, who were not taught to be a cooperative partner. It is, you are here for me. I am the queen. I am this. I am that. So when I started posting stuff about men, just simple information that I was learning from only the 3 books that I found on the internet about men, it's almost like people can't believe that there is a woman talking about what men need. So I'm very encouraging of ladies, like, we need to take a step down. Like our level of standards and our audacity with what we think that we deserve is way just way too high, and our heads are way out of here. And I was called a pick me. I've been called so many things.
I only learned what that was like a week ago.
Yeah.
The pick me girl thing.
Oh, I mean, I've been slandered by some women. They think, how dare you, talk about what men need, and how dare you, speak of the double standards that are in the dating market right now. And I feel very, very strongly about it because, I mean, now I just speak for myself. Like, my dating life is great because I'm humble now. I have a understanding of like how to show respect to a man. And one of them is respecting his career and his career choices. Like you said, if somebody walked in here and said like, what is this? Like, versus, tell me about it. Like, be curious about what a man has done to build himself, to get himself to where he's gotten to, versus just disqualifying him on the fact that, okay, so what? Like, he's got, comics, if he's doing well, like, how can I integrate myself into that life? Like, how can I show that I'm respecting him? And I think that us women need to take just a page out of the playbook and really step back and learn how do we court men. I don't think if you ask a lot of women, they would know, like, how do I court a man? How do I show up like
You
in
think
a
they're
man's
just
life?
expecting to be courted? Like, I just have to be myself and he'll court me?
Totally.
Type of thing. It's not
Yeah.
really taught in the other direction.
I don't think so. I don't think, no, not from a young age. The only thing I think, you talk to women who have pretty good stable fathers, and I was also lucky. Like, my brothers would, kind of call me out on my shit. And I think that guys who have women who have really stable fathers have an understanding of what like strong masculinity is and how to respect that and they find that very attractive. They typically tend to like pair off pretty early because they know what it is to be in a relationship with a man. They know they don't view masculinity as like all toxic. Like they don't just...
Sure.
Yeah. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and that was kind of my next question for you. So it's a father's role to kind of instill that at a young age. And I guess model it. Like, there's a responsibility on the father to model that for his daughter. Also model how to treat women. And a lot of that is how you treat your wife, because your kids look to that as well, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And starting out early with, daddy-daughter dates, starting out early, not disrespecting your wife in front of them, speaking highly of each other in front of one of the kids. But then also showing her that she can be a girl, showing her that she can feel safe, and not that she has to do everything in her life. That I think we're facing a crisis right now because a lot of women have been hurt by men. You can't pull up an Instagram where there isn't a woman complaining about, a bad date or a man not meeting her standards, or, all of these women are kind of congregating in this one side of the internet, and they are just like, I'm sick of men. I'm done with them. Like, I don't want anything to do with them. So there's a lot of women that are projecting their pain and all congregating together. And then men are becoming the perpetrators, right? Men are becoming this toxic masculinity for what? There was a trend on TikTok also that showed, the ick. Like, did you guys see that? Like, women were making videos about guys that gave them the ick, and it was like the stupidest shit that you've ever seen.
Was this where they would put up a camera and work out, and if a guy walked by and glanced at them, they would zoom in, and then they would post him on, and then they would like ridicule him for that?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
something.
Some of it was like as innocuous.
Oh,
as,
in
like,
the gym?
Do you remember this?
In the gym?
This was a big trend, and that was one where I was like, this is bullcrap.
Can you
Like, that's
imagine
not...
if a bunch of men like videotaped women and it was like, things that women do that like gives guys the ick?
Yeah.
But guys are just like, I'm building my legacy. I don't give a shit. Like you guys are busy working. You don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's hilarious because I'm like, guys don't bother doing this because they just don't care enough. Like, they're like, whatever.
Usually. And I think, I think a lot of times, because I see the guys in my generation and below, there is just as much misinformation and non-education on how to treat women as there is for the young ladies.
Yes.
Some guys are terrible. Some men are toxic and they're passive aggressive, and they were never taught how to actually treat anyone, men or women.
Yes.
And there are a lot of women hurt by these guys.
Yes.
And they're looking at influencers like, Andrew Tates of the
He's-
world, or
exactly.
all of those type of people
Exactly.
who are jamming, I hate to use the term, but toxic masculinity down their throats as well. And so, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I never judged. I mean, in his particular case, he's big enough. He won't care what I say about him. But the guy was a OnlyFans. He's a pornographer. I mean, that's enough. I don't need to really hear. I know he's said some good things in his time, but I don't think you can do that job and be a quality man. Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing that, that's just one of those things, in my opinion.
Or give relationship advice.
Or give relationship
dating
advice. Like, why would I listen to anything that guy has to say on this subject? If he wants to tell me about how to hide my money in the Caymans, well, maybe I'll listen to him.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to hear his opinions on masculinity. That's not masculinity to me.
Well, it's perpetuating this. It's perpetuating a continuous cycle of hurt, because guys, they learn game and they learn to manipulate women, or they come into the date like wanting to get laid.
Mm-hmm.
So they lie, or they learn these techniques, or they come in, and the only woman who is really going to fall for that is a woman who is potentially low self-esteem, insecure. She, views sex as validation from men. So then, they sleep together. He gets what he wants. She's, gets attached, and then gets her heart broken. She gets angry. He gets, whatever, more poo-tang. And then the cycle continues. And then you have another hurt, angry woman who, hates men and is taken off. She's like, I'm out of here. I'm off the dating market. So it's a really toxic cycle.
Ultimately, I also think it hurts the man, because the man is in that cycle continuously too, thinking that dopamine rush is fulfillment when it's not really. They're not really building anything off of that as far as a family, a legacy, and that type of thing.
Yeah, or they fall in love, like they get caught in their own game and they fall in love with a woman who is very insecure, very jealous. She comes out, 6 months, a year from now, and she's pissed and she's crazy because they slept together too soon. They're not dating off of something that's like of meaning. And then it's not a healthy dynamic. Like, there's nothing that comes from using games and manipulation on either side to like get into a relationship.
The constant need for the dopamine hit, this cycle of dating based on perpetual sexual attraction and sleeping together too soon. How much of this do you think is actually driven by pornography?
A lot. I don't watch porn. I'm not a guy. I don't see it as a guy would see it, but I would think, why would you want to have the patience for a woman to sleep with you if you can get it immediately? Like, what is the payoff for you guys? And this is me asking you, like, if you are addicted to porn, I don't know if you've helped someone get off of porn, but I also think that it causes guys to be potentially more aggressive. It causes guys to think that like this is how sex should go with a woman.
Unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, like
Impatience. Yeah.
Unrealistic expectations being caused by watching this porn and the aggressiveness that comes from it. I just can't imagine. I just don't see porn as being any type of a good thing for our society.
And at a neurological level, it creates such a high bar of stimulus.
Yeah.
Talking about dopamine specifically, when you are frequenting, I mean, me, myself, I have cycled in and out of addiction with this particular topic. When you are enthralled with that, for whatever reason you are, your stimulus bar is so much higher than it is at your normal baseline.
Yeah.
Your normal baseline of dopamine, you can sit and have a conversation with somebody, male or female. But if you're on a date and there's already kind of that tension, which is a good thing, you are almost like anxious to get to the finale. It gets almost, and you can tell the longer, not in the beginning, because like most progressive addictions, you don't notice any of the symptoms when you first start. But as you go and as you grow, and if you continue in that cycle, you will notice, and you'll notice that you have almost a skewed perception of female interaction with you. Like everything is geared sexual in your mind. Whether or not you voice that or not is based on your level of self-control. But in your head, it's difficult to turn that off and on.
And you're probably looking for cues or judging how much she likes you if she's having sex with you.
Oh,
or
100%.
if she is giving you any type of physical attention or moving the relationship along. I mean, and the thing with addiction, any type of an addiction, I worked with 12 Steps. I was a sponsor for many, many years before I got into coaching, doing this type of work. So my father was an alcoholic. It's long family history, generational alcoholism within the family. So I wanted to understand like why and how do people become addicts? So what happens is that, first of all, an addict becomes an addict because there is a sense of deep seated like anxiety. They're not comfortable in their own skin. So people use addictions to feel comfortable, right? Around people, around crowds, around atmospheres, like in relationships, because they're uncomfortable essentially with how they feel in an intimate situation, especially, and other people trigger it the most. So being addicted to anything, I call it, addiction is the number one intimacy killer, because what addiction does is that you can't be present with another human being. You can't have true intimacy with another human being because your brain is constantly searching for, oh gosh, I'm going to get this next hit. You don't even know it's happening. But 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours into a conversation, you just can't be present.
So you're not present with
because
yourself.
You're not present with yourself. You're like, where is my pen? Where is this? Where is that? So even
Jewel.
Yeah, like I work, I even work with clients. It's like, okay, I work from anywhere from redoing their dating profile to, I had a client who would be on the phone with me. He would be on the Zoom, and I noticed him every 15 minutes with the jewel. The jewel. Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing in the world.
And at one point I stopped him and I said, all right, we're not going to continue on with this, because right there, a high value woman is going to see that. And that's going to be a red flag for her.
100%.
So we're going to have to deal with your addiction first before we deal with your online dating profile.
Yeah.
We're going to have to understand, like, what is it that's really, truly going on within you, whether that's low self-esteem, whether that is, a lot of people they have low self-esteem. They're scared about what people are going to think about them, or they have some trauma in their past when it comes to their parents. They have some attachment wounding where they don't feel safe to attach properly to other people. So I work with them to, create a safer attachment. That's what a therapist does. A therapist or a coach or somebody works on trust, building intimacy. And then that you can start modeling that for them, and they will take that into their relationships and be better for it. So there's a lot that we do behind the scenes. I don't talk about a lot of this on Instagram because it's hard to encapsulate everything that you do. But there's a lot of things that I work with my clients on just to understand why they potentially are not getting the relationship what they want. And a big thing that you reminded me of is addiction and porn, and keeping them away from intimacy, because women who are really truly in tune with you and with them, what they're looking for and who they are and what they're looking for, they're going to see that as a red flag. Because what could your addiction lead to?
Right.
A lot of people have cross addictions. So porn will start, that will be one, but then they'll, typically if you peel back the curtain, it's gambling or a sex addiction or anything else that's going to provide that dopamine hit. And that's really scary, because that's what also leads to novelty seeking. Consequently, that also leads to cheating,
right?
Stepping outside of the relationship.
And everything's progressive, especially in the beginning of relationships. If you are somebody who gets into the conversation and he tells you, yeah, I've struggled with pornography, what you just said is very important for, I think, the young ladies to know, is that somebody who has truly been in that realm and who's been there understands that it's going to keep going whether I want it to or not. If I don't get control of it, all of a sudden my standards, my barriers, if I would never cheat, well, in porn, I can see one guy with multiple women. Well, I can't physically ever accomplish that unless I cheat. And therefore, that level, again, the dopamine, the chemical dependency, and the novelization can continue and take take fruit in a way you don't want it to and ruin your relationship?
A lot of people cheat or seek novelty within their life. Again, just my experience working with addicts for many, many years, because they're not passionate about their life. They don't have something that they're proud of. They go to work, they clock in, they clock out. Their life is pretty mundane. They go to addiction because it feels good. Like, would I rather watch a Netflix high or would I not? You know, I mean, what's like, I mean, not I don't need to get into your drug use or anything, but
Oh, we've definitely watched Netflix high. We've definitely done that.
So
it's more fun that way.
Oh, it's a
but
blast.
but at the same time, you know, people who have a lot of purpose, a lot of vision, a lot of fulfillment within their life, whether they're part of a church, whether they're part of a community, a lot of times you don't need other stimulus because you have that novelty and novelty seeking. You can have novelty seeking with getting an ATV and like going out into the desert and getting that rush and that adrenaline, right? But it's how and where you seek that novelty out that makes it healthy versus unhealthy.
Yeah. And I find it ironic that like relationship work a lot of times most of the time involves self-work. Like I've had younger guys approach me that like wanted advice on like, hey, how do I meet the one? Or where do I need to be to meet the one? And I'm always like, you need to be the best version of yourself. You need to show up for yourself and you need to improve yourself. That stuff will all work itself out. You don't have to worry about finding the one if you're going to be the best version of yourself. So yeah, I totally agree. Self-work is huge.
Yeah.
And improve on yourself. Everything else will fall into place.
I think sometimes a lot of guys think that once they find the one, like then they'll become the man. Like then they'll become the best
Then
version
this
of
problem
them.
will fix itself.
Exactly. It's like, okay, like I'm just missing this in my life, and it's the woman and the sex, and like it's gonna make me even better. And I like, back to the dating apps, I am not a huge fan of them because there is so much of that instant gratification. But if you're out playing pickleball, if you are meeting people at Toastmasters, which is a speech practice where there's a bunch of professionals, if you are putting yourself in like, get out of the house. Like, you're lonely because COVID messed us up big time with our social systems that we had in place. Like, it just shut that down completely.
And dating apps skyrocketed. Dating apps and pornography, the two businesses that like erupted in this sphere during COVID.
And home gyms.
That's right.
But I'm curious for you, single guy. I'd love to hear how can you spot when you're out on a date? Can you spot a woman who is of high quality or how she presents herself? Like, are there certain things early that you're talking about or that you're seeing that women are doing that is potentially turning you off?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, honestly, the biggest one, and this came, I think, a lot during COVID as well. I have seen a disturbing number of girls that the correlation between girls that I find to be physically attractive, and this is not just through dating apps. This is girls that I meet casually on Camelback or out. The number of girls that I see doing OnlyFans now is seriously messed up and disturbing. It's to me where I had it on one of my profiles for a while. Like, if you're doing OnlyFans, please do not like message me. Don't do anything. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. It is seriously messed up. And I think it's hurting the women more than anything, honestly. Guys have been able to get porn for the last 50 years or whatever it's been.
Thousands of
Thousands
years.
of years. Good point. Internet porn for the last 30 to 50 years. Guys can get it anytime they want.
Yeah.
But, it seems like you're getting so many more normal women between the ages of 18 to 25 who are like, hey, my friend so-and-so is making $6,000 a month posting these pictures. Like, I don't know of any other job that I could ever do that would get me that money. I'm going to go and do that. And it's one of those situations where I'm not young enough to think it's awesome. I'm now old enough to realize, well, you're going to have this value in this market for 5, maybe 10 years. then what's going to happen? You're most likely going to have met some guy who didn't care that you did OnlyFans and married you. Then that's probably going to fall apart because he's probably a scummy guy. I've gone through those phases, but either that or you're going to be single when you finally get out of that bubble. And now all of a sudden, what exactly do you do? How do you transition from being what is essentially a, soft porn sex worker to now an actual job in some way? The internet is forever. If you have managed, and even worse, it's one of the worst traps you can get into as a young lady, because if you've been successful and you've made $6,000 a month, that means you have thousands of subscribers. Thousands of people have seen you. They know you. They will recognize you. They recognize me. I'm sure they recognize you. It would be disastrous and embarrassing if I got recognized for my OnlyFans in public. That it seems like to me, that's one example. It really has kind of grown a lot, I think, in the last 2 years, 3 years even.
I had no idea. I had no idea that there were that many.
To where and I get it.
I have 4 brothers. They would come and murder me. They would find me, they would come to my house.
Oh, same here.
And murder me. Yeah.
I know someone that does weddings, and she had a bride that she was working with, and the bride asked her, "Don't tag me in anything because my whole family, all my friends don't know that I'm doing an OnlyFans. I'm making $10,000 a month doing it. So don't tag me in anything." And it was a big secret, and the whole family had no idea.
Wow.
Her fiance knew, but no one else.
The problem is, too, it's undeniable that you can make a lot of money. That's a lot of money to make with any content you're doing. Yeah. It doesn't matter what it is. There is very few options out there for that kind of revenue to come in just from that.
Yeah.
But
if they didn't have men paying, then there would be no market for it. So, I'm not saying that anybody's to blame. I'm not saying that, but look, I mean, if men are paying for the service, then what do we do there? It's like, men, you're taking the easy way out. You're perpetuating the problem, but but women are also, what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone in that equation is perpetuating the argument. And I don't particularly like the argument that people make, which is that OnlyFans somehow alleviates the possibility of sex trafficking, or that it's somehow because, I mean, the industry as a whole has always come under that sort of a flag. People have long held the truth that, hey, a lot of this stuff is being shot in areas where there isn't really a good age of consent. Maybe these girls are willing, maybe they're not, maybe they're on drugs, but either way, it's not a good thing to have. OnlyFans always presented themselves as, okay, well, this is different. This is for somebody who has to, they have to be 18. They go through a background check. They have to do this, this, and this. That's not the problems I'm talking about. I'm talking about if all of that's on the up and up, you are still creating an environment where relationships are deteriorating. Like, men don't want to ever date you. And if they do, you don't want to date them. It's just a big cycle, and like you said, men are watching it, men are consuming it, men are thinking they're in these. If you really understand what happens in the background of some of these massive fans,
I would love to. I don't know anything about this. I mean, I hear about it all the time, but
this is what Andrew Tate's companies did. They're pimps, let's call it what it is. These organizations will reach out to these young ladies who either maybe they're Instagram models or maybe they've just started on OnlyFans, and they will say, okay, we'll provide you the infrastructure. We will have a team of technicians to answer all your DMs and your messages. So when virtual assistants will answer these men who are asking you personal questions, and they, which a lot of times, who knows if it's a guy or a girl, they will answer for you. So you don't have to ever talk or interact with these people. Furthermore, we will push and promote your content, and we'll take a percentage of the profits, of course. But that's basically what he did on a massive scale.
Okay. Web. That's the webcam girl. That's what that's.
It's basically,
that's what that means.
It's replaced webcamming. It's a much more interactive version of webcamming, because now you can subscribe to my content. You can message me. I'll message you back. All of that stuff.
It's like a Twitch stream or something.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah. And I see that as a very successful but detrimental industry to relationships and just to people in general. It doesn't help anyone. And that's bad. But I mean, beyond that,
standards, their standards are just too high.
Speaking for women,
For you, like when you're out on these dates.
my standards are, my standards have definitely gone through periods of being too high.
Or are their standards too high for you?
No, women,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, no. Honestly, like I would say, me personally, I struggle with my standards being too high more than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I tend to go into each one of these potential relationship startups, if you will, with a relatively narcissistic eye. And while I don't ever,
At least he's honest about it. Narcissists aren't usually honest with themselves.
Oh,
so.
and I'm very good.
Wouldn't diagnose
at-
yourself then as a narcissist. but
Oh, I'm
keep
100.
going.
Oh, I'm 100% a narcissist. I'm a creative narcissist, and I know how to channel my tendencies and how to actually get something productive from it. But there's a dark side to this,
Yeah.
as there is with most people who have this sort of mind. I am very skeptical of really anybody that I want to get into my circle in any way, whether that's a new person. I'm not talking about somebody I meet as a client or just somebody I meet. I'm talking if I want to bring you onto my team, if I want to co-host on a podcast, I mean, that's an intimate thing. I am very skeptical of anyone. Everyone. To me, everyone is probably out to get you. They're out for their own means. They probably suck at their job, and XX, just keep going with the list. In my mind, I see the negative well before I see the positive. You have to change my mind about you for the better.
But this is like the risk thing that she was explaining earlier. You have to take on a level of risk. You have to put yourself out there a little bit at least in order to get something out of it on the other side of it. So, and that's scary. Especially, I'm so glad I'm not dating in today's day and age
Yeah.
because it's so terrifying
You should be
today.
glad.
I never was on the dating apps or websites or any of that stuff.
How long have you been married now?
I've been married since 2015, so 8 years.
And you dated Kristen consistently for 11 years
Before
prior
that-
to that.
before that, yeah.
So you've been off the market. Like, the internet was barely a thing when you were single.
Way to date me, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm before the internet.
But it is.
Did you ever get hurt really badly?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever been really hurt? And so,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, never to the situation where it was. I mean, I would not ever say that I had my heart broken. That's kind of the big, like, oh, did you get your heart broken? My answer would be, I mean, not really. I had interactions young in life, junior high, high school, where maybe there was interest. And it's interesting. I think if you were to really look at the guys who maybe they are the biggest narcissists or they have the most difficulty relating to somebody, usually they were the hopeless romantics when they were younger. They were the ones they were the first ones to put themselves on the
That's
line.
why I'm
Just
asking.
friends.
That's
with
why I'm
Ryan
asking.
Reynolds.
Yes!
Just friends.
Just Friends is the greatest. Have you seen Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds?
No,
when he's
but
in the
I
fat suit?
have clients like you, so I'm like, yeah, keep talking.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's true. There is a time in every single either a narcissist or a player or whatever it is they are now. There was a time in every single one of their lives where they were the one to put their best foot forward before anyone else. They were probably the hopeless romantic like I was. Then something happens. Maybe you get, yes, dude, you've got to see this movie. I'm telling you.
I will.
It describes what I'm talking about to a T.
This movie's great.
It's the best. It's one of the best movies
Okay.
he's ever done.
Okay.
But I think when that happens to you, and you don't have to have your heart broken to have this happen to you. I didn't. But let's say you were teased, or let's say you were ridiculed, or you were even worse, like taken advantage of. Any of that type of stuff. If women do that to you early on, and you're both 16, you're both 15, what is she to know that like doing this is going to really violate you? And as a guy too, I feel like when that happens, especially young, you're not evolved enough to know I should probably tell her that really violated me. Like as a guy, you're like, nah, don't, like, I'm not going to talk to her. And frankly, I wouldn't, because she may not even understand, even if you do tell her, because she's not at the place where she's going to be mature enough necessarily to say, oh, wow. Yeah, you know what? I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do it like that. Or maybe she did. That's the even worse part. Maybe she did mean to violate you, because who knows?
I see a lot of men, what they do is they just completely overcorrect, right? They were hurt. They were, like you said, they have a distrust for women, a deep distrust for women. And so they will almost become too critical, too overly consumed with looking for what's not going to work versus what is going to work, and become judgmental. And they basically, they cut things off before they can even get to a level of depth where you're negotiating your needs or you're talking about certain things that you're looking for. Like, they will just kind of cut the relationship off, or they will pursue the chase is what makes a lot of the dopamine, no offense to the fitness industry, but I have a cousin who is a Navy SEAL. I've dated a couple Navy SEALs being in San Diego. What I see is the pattern of the chase, the reward of getting.
Oh yeah, they're junkies.
Like,
especially those types of,
I got the junk, I got the girl, and now, like, she did that, I'm gonna start nitpicking that, or she did that, I don't like that, and they get fearful of ending up with the wrong person.
Or I would rather like to chase that girl.
Yeah, and but then once you get that, then the
same
cycle
thing.
starts all over again. So it's really, guys, if you're listening, it's recognizing if that's your cycle, that you need to take a pause, and, like this fine gentleman over here, recognize that you might have some narcissistic tendencies that are really going to keep you away from having a long-term, really sustainable relationship, because everyone's going to disappoint you at some point, men and women, and you're going to wake up some days and think, oh my gosh, what did I do, or whatever. But the rupture and the repair, the reading the books together, the coming together and understanding and knowing, having realistic expectations that I'm never going to be anybody that's going to fulfill my everything, all the lists. I have to choose this person and grow from there. But there's two different types of men, honestly, ones that like really can't get dates and are really struggling over here, or I see a lot of guys who are just so picky and who create that cycle, who just are they view relationships and women as transactional. And a lot of successful men, because they're also, a lot of successful men are hooked on achievement, hooked on achieving that love, hooked on achieving the girl. And then once they get this, it's like, oh, I can get this status of a girl. Maybe I can get this hotter of a girl. Like, maybe I can get this hotter of a girl.
Yeah.
You're just shaking your head because you know I'm right.
Oh yeah.
I think the important thing that you said is growth. It's like in a relationship, and this goes back to one of the guests that we just had on. He was talking about his wrestling coach, and the thing that his wrestling coach hated the most was when they got stuck in a move, because there's always a counter move to every move. And so I think getting stuck in a relationship is because one of the partners is not willing to grow. Like someone just gives up, they throw in the towel, they say, hey, I'm done. When you first meet with someone, like, they're not going to be all of that you want. That comes later, but that comes through growth with them. And the most important thing is that they're going to want the same things. They have the same goals that you have. You're looking at like the stock model, right? They're not going to have all the bells and whistles. That comes over time. That comes over a lot of trials, tribulations, but you have to be equally yoked in the fact that you both have the same destination, and that neither of you get stuck along the way. Because I have friends, I've seen a lot of people that, like, they'll just check out. They'll be like, all right, well, I'm done. I quit. Like, I've tried. And the other person's still trying. They're giving 110%, and their partner's giving 0%. So growing is super important, I think, in relationships. And you're right. You'll always be disappointed. Your partner's not always going to be everything that you want or you need them to be, but you need to at least work through those things and keep growing together in order to get from point A to point B.
And I will say that a lot of men underestimate, this is my theory, a lot of men underestimate how much a reassurance, attention, and safety women need in order to be inspired for that growth. And a lot of women underestimate how much respect, also kind of how much space that men need to kind of, do their thing, build their legacy. If women are coming on to a guy and they are just suffocating him to death, that man a lot of times will push that away because he feels almost trapped. So understanding that you can give a man space and he will come back, but a man has to create that safety in that absence, whether that's little things, a voice text, a post-it note on the fridge, you know, letting her know, you know, you're beautiful, I'm into you, like you're amazing. Then she can kind of relax, and that becomes a really, really healthy dynamic between kind of the masculine and the feminine. But sometimes what you'll see is this competition versus this cooperation, you know, like why do you like this? Why do I have to give you so much reassurance? Why do I have to do this? Like, you're annoying me. Guys will guys are like, they get so annoyed at the woman's level of attention that she needs. And then of course it will trigger the woman. Why does he need so much space? Like, he's sending me mixed signals. He says this, he says that. It's like, well, maybe he's just busy.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just working, you know, and he's like with a client and he can't get back to you. Like, let's give each other the benefit of the doubt. And that's, you know, Mars and Venus. John Gray wrote a book 30 years ago. And now we're in a culture where we can't even say that we have two genders, or else you'll get canceled. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
And I think that we need to sometimes go back to none of this. I don't know about this whole masculine feminine thing. Like, it just sometimes it like sounds like pseudoscience to me, but we just need to go back a little bit and look at what does it take to make a man feel respected? What does it take to make a woman feel safe? Like, this is evolutionary. This is Darwinism, right? Like, this goes way freaking back. This is not just Mars and Venus. Like, these are deep rooted tribal behaviors that we have had for millennial. And to say now, to come up and to deny certain things and to say that those things aren't there, they don't exist, or they're not a backdrop in the relationship, I think is really foolish.
Yeah.
We just need to bring them to the surface.
You had asked the question earlier, how can a man show contempt for a woman? And in my experience, it's like, if you publicly call your partner out in front of other people, like even if she's 100% in the wrong, like she's doing something wrong, say she drank too much or whatever it be, if you're publicly like shaming her like that, and I've seen this a million times with men doing it to women, that is showing contempt. Like, the right way to handle that is to always support them, but pull them aside, talk to them in private later, and then express your feelings that way. But I think that's a way that a man can show contempt to a woman, is to do that in front of her friends or her family.
100, and the same way around. Like, never embarrass your partner in front of that's like a kiss of death.
Yeah.
And I feel you've been around couples where you see that happening and it like makes you cringe.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think we've all been there at some point, or and it's like, oh gosh, like that just
because
that's bad.
As a guy, if another man were to do that to you,
punch him in the face.
Exactly. You have a natural recourse. It's like, oh, you're calling me out in front of everybody. Well, guess what I'm about to do?
Yeah.
But you can't do that if it's your spouse.
Yeah. And men will downplay women's emotions all the time. That can be contemptuous. So men will, I hear it, I see it all the time on my comments. I hear it from men that why emotions are not trustworthy. Why are you so emotional? Your emotions are crazy. You're crazy. You're overreacting. They will invalidate a woman's experience. And that is very contemptuous for a woman, because sometimes we don't know why we're acting a certain way. We don't know why we have certain feelings that come up. And again, if we go way back from an evolutionary standpoint, women are very in tune with their intuition and their emotions because of safety. We don't feel okay. We feel off. We're not going to walk down this alleyway. Like, we see a man, he's covered up. He has got a hoodie on. Danger, danger, danger. So like, our emotions are flared up
much higher
all the time. Like,
because a guy could see that same thing and could be like, I'll walk down that alley. He swings at me, I'll swing back. Whatever. Fine.
Like, I'll die.
Yeah, life is different.
Life is different.
That's a big important point that I think a lot of guys need to hear. Life as a female is a totally different experience on this earth than life is. There is literally like maybe two, like I can't go to Israel right now. That's the only place that as a man I shouldn't go to feel unsafe.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, I'm fine. Go jogging at night, no one's going to talk to me. Say whatever I want. No one's going to really do much. It's totally different if you're a girl.
Yeah.
Women's
Totally
intuition is crazy. It's like my wife, she'll tell me like, hey, don't get into business with this person, or don't purchase this from this person. every single time she'll
She's
be
right.
right. And every single time I'm wrong. I'm like, how do you know that? She's like, it was my intuition.
Yeah.
So I think women definitely have that intuition a lot. They're a lot more in tune than men, but also I think there's another component to it. And I've seen this with our children. It's like, my wife is so much more emotionally in tune with our children's needs. Like, she can empathize with them in a way that I can't. And I think that's by design. I think we were created that way, where she's way more nurturing. Like, whenever our kids are sick, whenever they get hurt, they go straight to mom. They don't come to me. Because I'm like,
Oh, it's so true.
I'm like
Yeah.
the logical fix. Or you need
Yeah.
a Band-Aid, or let's get you some medicine.
Yeah.
She's like, how are you feeling?
I
Why
was
are you
just at
feeling
the
that
soccer
way?"
match. So I went to go see my nephew before I saw you guys, and these two kids were like fighting on the field, and the two dads were like, fight it out. Take it out on the field, boys. And the moms pulled the boys aside, and they're like, do we need to talk about this? Like, do we need to talk through these emotions? So it was hilarious. My brother and I were just laughing because we're like female and male dynamics playing out right in front of us. But that is, I think you make such a good point, and we got to go back to respecting that. Look, I mean, women aren't all crazy. We are highly emotional. We understand that. But if you, and this goes back to dating too. So a lot of these pickup artists, I get a lot of comments from men. They say, don't take advice from a fish, take advice from a fisherman, right? That means like, don't take advice from a woman. But let me tell you, I got into this because I had gone out on probably 100 just absolute disastrous dates, and I was like, okay, these guys, like, we got to talk. Like, you guys need help, because women can smell inauthenticity from a mile away.
Intuition again.
We can smell when you are putting on a facade. We can smell when you have tried to use a line, or you're trying to show up not as you are. And a lot of these guys, I think, in the dating and pickup space, they don't know what it's like. Just like I don't know what it's like to date women. They don't know what it's like to show up and look at a guy and go, are you for real? Like, are you?
They've got like the first 10 lines scripted out. They're dressed and looking
they're
away.
dressed in a certain way, but I your self-esteem, your insecurities, the fact that you don't even know how to have a conversation with me, how to connect with me as a human being, and just talk with me and get to know me at a level that, you're either coming on super strong, or, you're just kind of a cyborg, and you're really smart, you're really intelligent, you're an engineer, you're totally right-brained, and you don't know how to transition over to that left brain and connect on an emotional level. And these pickup artists and watching these guys like tell you about game is not going to help you. Like, you need to sit in front of a woman and practice what it means to be truly authentic, and how to connect and how to market yourself appropriately, because women are picky. And and guys are MGTOWing and saying, I'm out, like men going their own way. I don't know if you've seen that movement, but there's like a whole movement on the internet that guys are just like done. They're just done with dating. They're done with marriage.
Sure
They
are.
Look it up. That like they and I think it just goes to show how they're just defeated. They feel like there's no other options, and I think it's because they've been given tough advice. They've been given bad advice. My suggestion to them is befriend a woman. Like, become a friend with a woman. Start to regain your faith back by just realizing that women are not all terrible. Some of them are very, very shallow, and stay away from those types of women. But there's a lot of good women waiting for men.
There's a lot of good people, I think, on both sides of the spectrum. And I see this as something that, I mean, we're definitely recognizing it now, and have been for maybe the last, I'd say this has been a really big talking point for at least the last 5 years. But you can look back, I'm thinking through the perspective of Hollywood, and that's a big thing. I mean, that Hollywood cinema shapes culture and how we perceive each other. There's been a very large trend of not even just the reversal of roles between men and women, but I mean, how many shows or movies do we ever see where you've got a healthy masculine man married to a smart, supportive woman? It's almost none.
Well, the
None.
dad's
The
a complete
goober.
dope.
He's a dope.
Yeah.
Can't do anything. I mean, Phil Dunphy's funny and all, but it's also ridiculous and annoying. And then you've got the wife who solves every problem. She's got everything figured out. She's with him, but, you know, just kind of to further the plot of the story. Doesn't really need him. It just seems like...
Because that doesn't sell. Healthy doesn't sell. It doesn't create drama. It doesn't create, you know, Leave It to Beaver, you know, was 60 years or 70 years ago because we had a different stimulus tolerance now. But Jerry Springer, we can thank Jerry Springer. We can thank reality TV. We can thank, you know,
2.5 Men. That's, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
like on 2.5 Men is like guys who are like, that's great. I want to do that.
Yeah.
That guy's a nightmare.
Yeah.
That guy has AIDS in real life.
Yeah.
It's funny, but it's terrible. King of Queens, same thing. He's fat. He's obese. He's out of control. He can't figure anything out. It's not
Well, what's
good.
interesting about that's what I'm saying. It's like what's interesting about just like a good old Christian couple who are raising some kids, showing what it like, you know, what it's to be in a healthy relationship. There's no drama. It's safe. It's calm. That would not sell.
Even not like, because it's Hollywood, they hate God. Let's not even Christian. Just a movie or a show where the guy is married to one woman and they're successful and they support each other and it's health. I mean, literally the only one that just comes to my mind. Did you ever see The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey? You know what I'm talking about. In this film, you really should watch it. It's very good. It's a Guy Ritchie style film, and Matthew McConaughey is sort of the kingpin of marijuana of England. He's the biggest rich. He's with the royals. It's this whole thing, and his wife runs his company for him. And there's an incredible scene, and they do this early on, and it's so rare that literally when I watched this, I caught on to it. I was like, this is weird. They're doing it in a way that actually kind of promotes this marriage. He's at this meeting with a perhaps antagonist that's trying to take over his business, and he's not quite sure what his move is. And they're talking, and after they stop talking, the dinner table continues, and his wife is to his side, and he turns and he just said, it's Matthew McConaughey, so he's got that, you know, that bravado. He's like, you know, what do you think of him? And she tells him, you know, I think he's got this motive. I think he's going to try to do this. I think, and he listens to her, takes it, and applies it, and that's the story unfolds.
Yeah.
But it's just so rare that you see anything even halfway along those lines in anything that's being pushed today.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to a cultural narrative where we're at right now, where women are being told that they have to give up, you know, it's like, give up your career, go back to staying at home, go back to being the trad wife. Like, you know, we're going over all the way on this side, and men, in order for you to be masculine, like, you need to find this type of woman, you need to do this, you need to have the job, you need to have the money, you have the success. Not that that's not a good model. I think that that's great. But as you can see with certain places such as Arizona, California, like, it is expensive to live in these places. Not everyone can have this traditional lifestyle. So we have to adapt into a different model, potentially. Going back to I Love Lucy and going back to these, you know, Brady Bunch, like, I don't necessarily think that that is the answer, because I think that might be a pipe dream. That might be a little bit unrealistic. But
Good point.
if you're going to work, ladies, if a man, you know, if a man wants to be the man of the house, or we've given so much status to money and to things that's where the competition starts to happen. And that's where I will agree with some of the red pill guys where they say hypergamy is an issue, where women are making more, their standards are becoming a little bit more unrealistic, and they're not respecting a man who brings as much to the table. So men are just saying, okay, like, I'm out then. If I can't secure a woman with what I'm doing, then I'm going to go to OnlyFans. I'm going to go to porn. It's like, we have to address from so many different narratives and so many different sides of the equation that are broken. It's like, women have to understand that when you have a job, like, do your thing, rock your boss bitch, babe.
Yeah.
But you can't bring that home. You can't bring that energy home because
and treat him like an employee.
Yeah, like that it's going to cause some strife long term.
I agree.
And there's the other factors that you have to bring into it is like, okay, one of us or both of us are going to work. We're going to be full-time professionals, right? Well, who's going to be raising our children? Are they going to raise our children with the same values that we have? And then not only that, how much are we paying them to raise our children? Because a lot of times it's cheaper if one of the parents can stay at home. You get to raise your children the way that you want to, and you're basically not paying as much
Saving
as
money.
one of their salaries to watch the kids. So there's all these different factors I think we got to take into consideration. And sometimes, you know, I think both parents go, okay, I want to follow my dream and be a professional, and the kid gets left behind, or the kids get left behind.
And these are the conversations that way back to the beginning of the conversation that we need to be having early and often in dating. Yeah. Like this is where it starts. What kind of a life do you want? If you get pregnant, if you did, you know, is your career more important? Do you even want kids? Do you not want kids? Because that woman will become resentful if she gets put into a situation that, you know, she didn't want to, but people aren't having these. Yeah. People are not having these conversations. And all I'm saying is you can't have it all, but if you're going to have it all, if you want this type of life, if it's expensive, if you're in a city where you have to work, then you have to be open about what triggers your partner, what that looks like. If a man doesn't want his woman working, or if he, I'm just thinking of different ways that men feel emasculated. Like we have to be present as women and understand that this might be emasculating for him. So what are some ways that I can show up that won't emasculate? And men, if she is making more money than me, then am I going to become resentful of that? Am I going to punish her for being more successful? Or am I going to let that affect my manhood? Because does your money define you? It's like a lot of men get tied to their success, and they believe that like the more they make, the more masculine, or and
that's a problem, I think, whether you're married or not. If your identity or your manhood is tied to your money, we were just talking about this, specifically addressing how today's influencers, especially any influencer in the mentorship circle or the financial gain circle, that is all they talk about. That is all they flex. Look at my watch. Look at my car. You're a bitch if you don't drive this. I think it is terrifying and devastating to have that perspective, whether you're single or not. That does not define you as a person. That is an extreme. Money comes and goes. You are a train wreck of a personality, and you need to fix that. It's not something that is going to be able to survive a marriage, but you need to fix it before you even consider dating, I think.
And if that is your identity when you have money, what happens when you lose money? What happens to your identity?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys like him, but I actually do really appreciate Alex Hermosi. I like his stuff.
I love Alex Hermosi.
Because
Two podcasts in a row he comes out.
Yeah, I mean the cutoff shorts, the freaking nose thing, the hat, the beard. I mean, men, there is nothing sexier than a man who owns his shit. And like, regardless of whether he had money or not, he pulled, Layla, a very beautiful woman, long time ago. He's lost money. He's gained money. I mean, they have extrinsic worth and intrinsic values that hold them together. Yes. Have they become very, very successful? 100%. But that dude owns his shit so hard, regardless of whether, and I get the same energy from you guys. Like I feel that energy of that masculinity, and I know that you guys aren't defined by your worth. I can just feel it. And I think that's the self-confidence, and that is, whether you're successful or not, having that self-confidence is so very attractive to a woman. That is a woman who, you're going to attract her for the right reasons. You're going to attract a wholesome woman who will stand by you if this shit falls through the roof. But if you lead with cars, if you lead with money, if you lead with a timepiece, if you lead with all these other things, yeah, you'll get a hot woman, but again, guys like that, they're just using the hot woman as another status symbol. Like
She's
you're
just like the car.
yeah,
She's just
you're
like the watch.
exactly.
And she's gonna know that. That's the other thing. She's gonna be, oh well, I mean, if I'm just another item in the garage, then like why wouldn't I sleep with the guy down the street? I mean, that's
just
it.
using you for resources
using
as
you
well.
for resources. No, I fully agree, and I love what you said about Alex. It's one of the few people on the internet that actually I think does that very well. He talks about success and what he's gotten and what he's done, but it doesn't seem like he's motivating people through money. He's motivating them to perfect their craft, you know, his sales techniques and everything he does with the lead generation. And that's great. But what makes him so relatable and so incredibly efficient as somebody who teaches is the fact that, you know, he went broke. He was the exact same then as he kind of is now as far as his self-confidence, but it's, you know, he lost it and he gained it, and it didn't seem to really affect him, it seems like.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's going to these things in cutoff shorts. He's wearing his big beard.
I'm sure he knows how to put a suit on and talk to billionaires. Like I don't think he struggles with that.
Sure.
But the fact that he just does not define himself even by the clothes he wears. He probably, no. I would imagine walking into a date when he was younger, or maybe he wasn't always as confident, but I imagine him now walking into a date and being like, I don't give a fuck what you think about me. Like, I'm here. I am who I am. I'm going to speak I'm going to speak what I want. I'm going to talk about what I want. And if you're not here for it, then deuces. But a lot of guys, what I work with them is basic being able to say no. Like, you're not for me. I'm going to walk away from this date. Guys date in scarcity. They date without, they think like, oh, I'm going to get this one option. And it's a one date a month. So they hold on so tight, and that, one, it scares a girl away, but two, it makes you think in your mind eventually, like, what if I got to say the right thing? I got to do the right thing. I got to and it becomes performative, and women can feel that. It feels inauthentic. It feels like, gosh, why is he being so desperate? It comes off as desperation versus that other, I call it I have a phrase on my
BDF.
Big dick energy. Yeah. Like, if you have that energy, it is just, there's nothing that can keep a woman from being attracted to that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Men are really like, it's a lot harder for them to walk away from the table than it is for women.
Yes.
And women have to be more selective. I mean, there's who knows out there. And so, yeah, I haven't been in the dating game for a long time, but I can see from that perspective, like, why it is so difficult, especially in the day and age of social media, where it's like the ground that you're meeting on is under the pretext of dating. It's not even starting with friendship. Like, you're catapulting over the friendship stage straight into dating. Yeah. And so I agree. You know, your advice earlier is like, just become friends first. Find someone that you're gonna gel with. You know, take everything else off the table. Become friends, and then work from there. And I think that's very difficult to do when you're starting from the ground of a dating app, where that's the intention that you both have going into.
Think about the pressure that puts on both of you. You're automatically going into it thinking, is this person it? Is this person the one? Is this person the next person that I'm going to get into a relationship? Maybe men think like, am I going to get laid? Like, I think we go into dating a little bit different.
Our thoughts are like a Morse code. It's like good thought, bad thought, good thought, bad thought, good thought, bad thought.
I've heard. Yeah, but think about the pressure versus, you know, if you're out living your life and you're just sitting at a bar, or you're playing pickleball with a girl and she's cute, and you say, want to grab a coffee after this? Like, let me just get to know you. There's no pressure. There's no expectation to the outcome. I follow one of the best dating advice gurus, in my opinion, that I follow is Dr. Glover. He wrote a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. I talk a lot about it on my channel because Dr. Robert Glover. I think it's Robert, right?
You can use a space, right?
There he is.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, he's got no Instagram. He's got a huge YouTube.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, that's the
You gotta
that's the picture.
educate him on
Yeah,
that.
he's making hand over fist money, but what he really dives into are the certain behaviors that men do that's very passive aggressive, right? They'll put themselves into the friend zone by being super passive and by, well, let me just like get to know this girl and like let me desexualize myself, and they try and like weasel their way into a relationship. He really calls out a lot of these behaviors.
We know someone who did that.
Yeah, I mean, and it doesn't necessarily work like once you're in it, but he talks a lot about attachment to the outcome. There he is, the cure for the nice guy syndrome. Yeah, he is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, he's big.
Yeah, this is huge for your audience who are nice guys, or who are told that they're nice guys.
We can't have audio, I don't think, right?
Correct.
Did you turn it back up?
Sorry about that.
It's just
Oh,
the
that's
iPad,
okay.
right?
That's okay. That one where he gives a presentation is really good as well. The one where
I could
he's
tell
on the,
this-
With the whiteboard,
Yeah,
how to
that's
naturally attract women.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And his answer to how to naturally attract women is they'll come to you when you're attractive. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to go cold approach them. Like, I don't know how you guys attract women, but if you've ever been in a bar, you know,
Hell no.
they don't come to you.
I don't go to bars.
Okay.
Oh, bars are
He doesn't
Okay.
drink.
to me, bars are the social setting format that a dating app is.
That's true.
It's
That's
the
true.
single worst place to meet anyone, guy or girl. I wouldn't want to meet a guy at a bar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to meet anybody in any capacity at a bar.
Yeah.
It's
True-
just we
true.
don't.
I don't drink either, so that's
No,
a
I don't
true
drink.
story.
We don't
Same.
have that much in common if you're there doing that on Saturday night.
Yeah. But he'll give an example, right? He uses an example as cold approach, right? Or a man will think in his head, I'm going to approach this woman, and there's so much pressure. Like, what do you say? What do you not do? Did you think she's going to overreact? Do you think she's going to call you a scumbag? Like, so guys will go through all of this. And his whole thing is like, walk through open doors. Like, don't walk through closed doors. And that woman that you're cold approaching is a closed door. You're only approaching her because you think she's hot. But when you get to know someone as a friend, or when you put yourself in social circles, when you meet other women through, other friendships or in church, or you're out and about, like, and she looks at you a certain way, open door. Like, open door. Pay attention to the signals versus just perpetuating the problem of
Trying to force it.
forcing a connection to happen that may
But,
not be there.
I mean, I will say, using the scenario you just said about, hey, maybe she's sitting at a coffee shop, she hasn't acknowledged your presence, it's a closed door, quote unquote. It doesn't hurt to knock.
Totally.
And the worst thing she could ever say, unless you go up and insult her, the worst thing she would ever say is like no or no thank you. Like, that's if you wrap your head around that, like, are you okay being told no? Because we all get told no. If you're all right with that happening, then go for it.
Yeah.
Go up to her, talk
I
to
think
her.
rejection, though, a rejection, especially from a woman, is very difficult for a lot of men to stomach, because I think ultimately it goes way back. Like, we're basically rejecting your genes. Like, we're rejecting you as
No, thank you. Keep your seed.
I mean, I think that a lot of guys feel that, though, like at a
Yeah.
very deep level, like, I am not interested in you. And think about that happening, hundreds of times or 50 times. I think men just get to the point where they're over it. But my biggest thing is don't use the pickup lines, the pickup artistry. You're not going to win with that. You can only win with so much game. Once you fix yourself, like once you fix yourself from the inside out, whether that's a therapist, whether that's a coach, whether that's somebody who, look, I mean, coaches just watch your form and they point out the mistakes that you could be making. Same with any coach, therapist, or anything, like they're going to see things that you may not see. So, whether it's a coach, whether it's getting into therapy, whether it's doing some of the internal work with a pastor, wherever, like a mentor, they're going to point out things that you are not seeing, that are blind spots within yourself. And that is why you need, just hire someone or do something to get yourself to a good spot, because then all the game, all the techniques, all the things that you think you need to use with women, you don't need to. Like, I don't use a dating coach. Like I just show up, and if it doesn't
You
work
are
out,
one.
I am. but I wasn't always. Like, I had a therapist for a long time to help me with certain blind spots that I had about myself and about men, how I showed up in relationships, how I showed up, the rejection that I would feel, because guys think that women don't have women don't get rejected. Like, you can have all the options in the world. No, like there's a lot of times where it doesn't work out for us.
Oh yeah.
But now it's just living your life. Like, I think that people think that they are owed a relationship, or like they're owed sex, or they're owed a certain thing. Not really. Like, you need to find happiness and fulfillment regardless of a relationship or not.
Oh yeah.
And then again, the pressure gets taken off. You show up on a date, you look at it as an opportunity to meet a new person, to have a good conversation that you may not have had before, and you practice, and you get good at it.
Yeah.
And you enjoy the time for what it is, and your life doesn't end or begin with this one Bumble date, or this one girl who you rejected, who got, you rejected her, or whatever, vice versa.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Don't put too much weight on that experience. I'm sure you get this question all the time, but where do you advise singles to go to meet other people, perhaps their significant other?
If you like working out, go to the gym. I walked into a Lifetime Fitness the other day. Love them. Sorry, they're not your model. I have a trainer as well. I have a couple different gyms, but go to places that you like to hang out.
Yeah.
I did a camping and hiking with REI once. Lots of outdoor healthy men there. Lots of healthy women there. Obviously, if you have a place of worship, that's a great place. Join a Bible study. You have to work on expanding your network. I wouldn't say work is like the best place. That can get a little iffy.
It can. Yeah.
But joining, if you're a golfer, there's some great women who are in shape that golf. If you have a country club, if you have, depending on where you have to get out of your house and you have to expand your network. There's meetups. There are places that you can congregate with groups of people. Yeah. Music festivals. There's EDC. There's just Burning Man. Like, people just need to live their life, and they'll introduce, like, I've been introduced multiple people through friends, like, oh, you're single? I know this person that's single. I think, let me give you your number, vice versa. If you have an expanded social network, people will keep you in mind for other people when you're single. But again, just get out of your house, get online, look for networking events. I'm in Vegas all the time working with, entrepreneurial events, other social media creators, podcasting. Hello. I just met 3 new handsome gentlemen here. Like, there's ways to do it where you're getting out of your house, you're expanding your social network, get online, type in farmers markets in your city. I'm trying to give all the ideas. Like,
Yoga.
Yoga. Oh yeah.
my goodness.
Beautiful women in yoga.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But do it with like a dual purpose in mind. That's another. I mean, if you're gonna go and do an event, go to something like for me. I probably wouldn't want to, well, I might want to go to Burning Man, but I don't know that I would like pick that, because to me, I'm not somebody who goes to Burning Man.
No,
so if I meet somebody there,
that might be a false pretense.
That might be her thing. She goes to everyone. She's, you know what I mean? Like, and so pick one of the events that you're like, hey, you know what? I want to go to this thing anyway. And if I don't meet somebody, I'm not going to feel defeated.
Yeah.
I went to this networking event. It was totally awesome. I loved it. I need to go again.
Go to Running Man.
Running Man.
That's right.
Running Man.
Music is a huge thing. If you have live music in your city, going to concerts,
comedy shows.
Yeah.
Comedy shows are my favorite, because that means the person's got a great sense of humor. The ability to laugh is huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge. Maybe it's just me, but yeah.
No, that's huge.
That's huge.
Because life is serious, and having somebody to laugh at it is, I don't take that for granted either. So
if someone wanted to do coaching specifically with you, how would they go about doing that? Where would they go to get involved?
Tons of options. Go to sarahdawnmoore.com. I have a course, breaking down basically everything we talked about today, a lot of masculine and feminine behaviors, how to look out for them, how to show up, how to date with intent. Or, you know, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube. I give, you know, might launch a YouTube video every other day with tons of advice. But, you know, yeah, hire me on sarahdawnmore.com, different coaching packages. And let's get you the relationship that you want.
Yeah. And you just started the podcast as well.
That is, yep. That's not launched yet.
Not launched
it's
yet.
coming.
Where's it gonna go? Where
2 weeks from now, we're launching on Instagram and YouTube. And
Awesome.
That's exciting.
I'm
Congrats.
starting it
Yeah.
with my partner. His name is Attachment Adam, and he was a psychotherapist for 15 years, and we really dive into just how your childhood and how you saw relationships, how that affects how you act in your
fascinating.
adult relationships.
Oh, you got to hook us up with him. I'm sure
Yeah.
he's very
Next
fascinating.
time,
Yeah.
he is fascinating.
Oh, it'd be
Next
cool.
time we're in town, we're recording the studio.
It'd be cool to do both of you guys
Yeah,
here.
I'll
We
have
could
them.
do that. Yeah,
Yep.
have a conversation about that.
Yes.
Dive into the childhood trauma side of things
Yes.
and all that stuff. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's
Well,
good at that.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on. That was seriously
Really
a lot of
appreciate
fun.
it.
That was a great talk.
Thank
Awesome
you.
podcast, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching that episode of Becoming the 1% Podcast. If you like the content and you want to see more of it, hit the like and subscribe. Activate that notification bell as well. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to see more of it, we actually have the Becoming the 1% Instagram, and the podcast is available on Spotify. For our socials, we have Strict Vision Athletics on Instagram, we have it on YouTube, and we have it on TikTok.